Welcome to the third in our series of video tutorials focusing on developing condition controlled iteration, in other words while loops. In this third edition I want to introduce the idea of a compound within the while loop. So what it's going to do is check for two conditions. To start with, I need to assign a couple of values or variables, and within this piece of code I've got two variables, one called val and called new val, and they both inside the value of 0. Right, they're going to be our controls now. There's repel popping things in there that I didn't want it to pop in. So what we need to do is check val is not equal to 10. So that's the first condition it will check. Every time it will run, it will run at least once because val starts off at 0. So we're going to get a user to input value in a minute to that variable, or our second control, new value is equal to 0. So in other words, our code will run because new value is 0 and val is 0. So both of those conditions will be met. Now let's just go up a line here. What I want to do initially is to get new value as a user input, and we're going to input a number. There's repel being useful for a change. Yeah, so we're going to get them to enter a value. Now what I want to happen is val will update by the user input. So if the user enters in 2, for example, then val will have the value of 2, and it will come up and check that it's still not equal to 10. It will keep on going. Now I don't want it to print val. That's not. I don't want it to do that at all. So we've updated both values there, one through user input and one through using a process on line 6. Now here's where we want to think, okay, so how are we going to escape this loop potentially? Because I want the user to be able to enter in a value so that the code will stop. In this case it's going to be 0, 0, so 2, 0. So if the user enters in 0, 0 for new value, what we need the code to do is to give some sort of message, print not prompt. It's always useful, isn't it? Something like, oh, okay then. I could spell then, it would be useful, wouldn't it? Okay then. I think I'll put an exclamation mark on there for no particular reason. But that won't make it stop. What I want us to do, we can see that repel second guessing me, is actually we use the keyword or the key function break. So in other words, if the user enters in 0, 0, the code will stop. But we want a second condition here, so if the user doesn't enter in that, what I want them to do, oh there we go, so print the total is now val. Okay, so let's see what happens. Let's run it, shall we? Okay, so select your code. I've called that 3. There we go. Enter a number. So if I enter in 3, there we go, the total is now 3. Of course it is. Okay, so that's the total of val. If I enter in 4, okay, the total is now 7. If I enter in another 3, total is 10, and it stops because it's checked. Okay, while the value is not equal to 10, carry on going. It's now 10, it carries on going. I'm going to run it again. Okay, so we can see what happens. So if say enter in 8, so the total is now 8. If I enter in 1, the total is now 9. If I enter in 0, 0, what should happen is that a message will print out, oh okay then, and the code should break. Let's see what happens. Brilliant, there you are, it's broken. Okay, so a simple-ish example of using two control variables within a while loop, getting the user to enter an input, updating one of the values, or one of the variables rather, and then using a specific value in order to break out of the loop. Alright, thank you very much for viewing.